Welcome to Go Home Heat, a wrestling podcast. Justin and KP are going to be going through AEW and Impact Wrestling this weekend. Obviously, New Japan is still kind of on a hiatus, and NWA is kind of in a holding pattern as well with the pandemic world we are currently living in. AEW, however, has decided to go somewhat double E by returning to live action next week. Did not see the uproar and anger and venom pointed in their direction that went towards Vince McMahon when he decided to go.
Because Vince only cares about killing people because he's evil. And
AEW's trying to entertain because they're not
evil.
Okay.
It's what would you tell me? It's like you were telling me, was it Kevin Nash or somebody from the NWO? No, it was Dean Martin. I said that we did this whole thing before, saying when you're over, you're over. You can't. Whatever you do is right.
Yes.
And when you're not over,
right,
no matter what you do, it's wrong.
Right. Correct. Joey Bishop said to Dean on a Rat Pack movie that was done by HBO where Ray Liotta was Frank.
Oh, nice.
And I think Montagne is Dean. And the guy who plays
Montaigne.
And the guy who plays Sammy Davis is the Iron Man sidekick.
Terrence Howard. No, or the second one.
Don Cheadle? Don Cheadle, okay. And so Joey Bishop is sitting there and he says, "We killed it tonight, didn't we?" And Dean kind of says, "Well, we could have done anything." And he goes, "No, I mean, you heard that crowd." He says, "Look, man." And two girls walk by and he kind of goes, blah, 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 blah. And they giggle and kind of go off. And he says, "Right now we're hot. No matter what we do, it works. Most we won't be. No matter what we do, it won't."
Yep.
Because Dean was that rare guy who had it all with Jerry Lewis and walked away from it because he couldn't be. Anybody that's seen Jerry Lewis can assume that you can like Jerry and not be able to be in the same room with him.
Yes.
Every day.
I kind of feel like that's how Bianca Belair and Montez Ford are.
Yes.
That'd be my wrestling analogy of how that relationship looked to me.
Correct.
With Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, to give people a point of reference. But that is exactly my point. Like you're right. AEW is over, man. They're good.
Well, their fan base is like, even in the WWE, even inside of the fan base, there is a "I'm with the wrestlers, I'm not with Vince" faction.
Yes.
And there's also a faction of, no matter what Vince does, he gave us all this.
Yeah.
He matters. But in AEW, it's almost all, no matter what, it works.
Mm-hmm.
Right now.
Right now.
They haven't made, and they also have avoided in 7-8 months a really big goof.
Yes.
Like, you can complain about little things, like you say, "Oh, well, I don't like the fact that they're not tagging in and out."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're mad about that. That's fine. But that's tag team wrestling. And
if you watch, like, luchador wrestling and stuff like that, you've seen this before. It's not like they invented this as a concept or something. They're doing particularly worse than... I watched WWE this week, and I saw several tags that happened without holding the tag rope, which is what you're supposed to do to actually get a legal tag. And
right.
I didn't see any... I'm sure there is a whole website of people, because the internet is the internet.
The rules.
The rules.
The rule website.
Yeah.
What's going on? But, yes, exactly. So let's get to this episode. Cody versus Darby first. It's a very good match.
Except for the finish.
It's a very good match. I have two problems with it a little bit. Now, Jericho does explain during the match that rules don't matter here in TNA, TNT. The TNT tournament, the rules don't matter. Which he kind of puts a question mark behind that, as in, basically, there's so much on the line here. And I get where he's going, because in every wrestling company ever, when there's a championship match, they have allowed action outside of the ring. You do allow them to go through a Spanish announcers table, even though this is not a no DQ. That kind of thing, right? And so I get where he was coming from. Now, first, before we get to the finish.
So it's okay for Cody to use foreign objects.
Again.
Just point out.
Again, right?
So the boss of the company gets to use foreign objects in a match.
Technically, I would think the boss of the company always gets a little bit of levity
Yeah. So,
in his matches. We can start. You know how there's a Tommy Dreamer match?
yes.
We can just call it a Cody match.
the Cody match.
There's also
Weight belts are legal as a weapon.
There's also a Dustin match where bleeding is
Required.
highly recommended. And
You
mostly
cannot get a
required.
pin unless you're bleeding.
The match does not start till Dustin
It's bloody.
takes a razor to his forehead.
Yes, to his own forehead.
Okay, so Brandy gets
Oh,
run over by Darby.
let's point out how that happened, because if you watch it, it is. I know that it's part of the show.
Tell us.
Cody totally sidestep. He's looking at his wife. He looks over his shoulder, sees Darby coming, and sidesteps and pushes Darby into his wife at speed.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know was. But you got to shot. Y'all, this wasn't shot live, was it?
Mm-mm.
Y'all could have reshot that to make it look less like Cody totally buried his wife.
Maybe that's Cody's role now. Because later on, he allows another family member to remain in harm's way.
Finally, Cody's true nature's coming through. 'Cause
Yes, it could be.
Jericho
Okay, but-
called him on it too, and I was crying because he
here's-
was right.
But here's my problem
Cody
with this
totally-
spot. Why? We're getting a very good Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin match. There's no reason for this spot. And she is an active wrestler in this company. So when she gets hit and hits a barricade that doesn't stay still, it slides back and lays her down nice and soft.
Uh-huh.
Then she crawls away like she's dead. She's an active wrestler in the company.
Uh-huh.
Why am I supposed to believe she's dead?
Yes.
Why did she return with a water bottle?
What happened there?
Why did she struggle to get back? Was Cody dehydrated?
Yes. She knew
Was he?
that. That's what
Was
she
he
knew.
dehydrated? Really?
She is. Have you seen The Water Boy?
Yes. Okay. Good enough. But she hands him
She
the
is
water.
Bobby
Then I
Boucher.
believe he winds up spitting water all over the place on accident, which
Well,
is
he
not
ends
good
up-
in a pandemic.
No, he ends up. Doesn't Darby hit him in the head with the water
That's
bottle?
next.
Yeah. What was the point of that?
That's my point. Here we took this fantastic little thing, except for the ending, which those things happen,
Yes.
and we inserted 3 minutes of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
It was junk.
Why?
It was junk.
I don't understand why we had
It's
to do
filler.
that. But again, skip over to that. We get to the end, and then
And this is a great match. Darby Allin looking like a superstar. Cody Rhodes.
why did Britt Baker hit Cody with a shoe?
Why not? I was fine with that. Cody
But-
looked like he deserved it. No, I'm kidding. That
But seriously.
it didn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. It doesn't give her more heat. You know what I mean? You want to give her more heat? Have her put her thumb in his eye.
Yeah.
But she shouldn't have touched him at all. It doesn't matter. There were other heels around the ring. They didn't try to get involved.
No.
Was she going to challenge Cody for a
belt
title
next
he's
week.
never going to win?
The belt
No.
next week.
So again, we have this really good stuff, and we could have just eliminated 4 minutes of stuff.
Let
and
me
we'd
point
get a great
out
match.
that your best friend Cody Rhodes, this is indicative of his personality when he gets control of anything. His entrances, a lot of good stuff, and then there's 40% of it is stuffed in junk that doesn't make any sense with the rest of it. His outfits, usually there's about 3 or 4 things that kind of make sense, and then, a weight belt that doesn't match anything along,
And a cod piece.
and a cod piece,
Why does he build?
and a neck tattoo out of nowhere that doesn't fit anything else that he's got as far as tattoos or anything like that. He's
I love his neck tattoo.
awkward,
Love
dude.
it.
He's an awkward
Absolutely.
human being.
But I don't understand why he builds a thong into his.
The coin slot into his... I was wondering about that myself. I'm truly mystified as to what that is.
I don't get it. I don't get that. That's the one thing that I don't mind the knee pads in there.
I don't mind the knee pads either because he went so long without knee pads. Remember, that used to be my only biggest problem with Cody Rhodes is he had shorts, boots, and no knee pads, and it was the most awkward-looking crap I'd ever seen in my life.
Do you know he didn't want to wear knee pads because he said it made him look different, and the company wanted
Different
to
by awkward. He doesn't know the difference between cool and awkward. I'm telling you.
Cody, don't let this man talk about you like that. Come on,
Like he tormented his poor
Come
dog,
on here
dragging it out to
live.
the ring. That didn't even...
come on live and defend yourself, Cody. So, luckily Jericho told us that this was going to be there were going to be no rules involved, so it doesn't matter that there was a no shoulders 3 count in the match.
Yes.
Cody go again to your point. Cody gets this thing going his way and decides to do the first ever coffin drop from Cody.
Yeah.
Catches knees, so he's done. And Darby goes for his coffin drop, and Cody cleverly rolls him over. 1, 2, 3, gets the pin. But Darby is reaching back to pull a leg or something up, which pulls one of his shoulders up. So now we don't have. Maybe his other shoulder was down. I don't know for sure. But
so.
Aubrey wasn't on that side.
Yeah.
Aubrey was literally looking at 3 shoulders in
off.
the air from a foot away and pounding on the mat. And Jared defended it by saying, oh, well, Aubrey just had to go with the count. But even still, why wouldn't she just slide a couple of feet the other direction?
Here's my thing on that.
Something. You're going to blame
You
Cody.
talk to me about the difference between this wrestling company and the other wrestling company being that we're able to be creative on the fly and stuff like that. That stuff happens in the real world all the time. Like if your bingo hall matches, if you screw that up and everybody sees it, you got to keep going with the match. You got to come up with you got to get those 2 guys in a collar and elbow or something for a few seconds. All right, here's what we'll do. We'll change up the finish. We'll do it blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You know, you got to fix it.
You were going to beat me in a roll-up, beat me in a different roll-up.
Yeah, we'll set it up from a different angle. We'll hit 2, 3 moves, boom, we're out of here.
And we're taping.
Yes, we could go back and fix
They
this.
were literally taping. They could have absolutely just given us a different camera angle on that. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have had to see that and wonder, because you're selling this lady, you're selling
which goes back to my complaint.
Her shirts. You're making her a star. You've decided she's as big a deal as the matches. You allow her to insert her personality into the matches, kind of a Red Shoes style if you're New Japan, and that's okay. But you continually put her in scenarios where she looks like a buffoon.
Yes, Red Shoes doesn't look like a buffoon. Red Shoes figures things out. He makes the right call. Now every once in a while he gets fooled like every other ref. He's
right,
but you have to work to fool him.
Right, and if he notices you're working to fool him, he won't let you win the match on nonsense. Mm-hmm. He'll extend the count. He'll do whatever. But you weren't following the rules, therefore the rule won't start till things are a little bit more even.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this, and then later in the episode, you see the same thing. But you mentioned the camera angle thing, and this is not... AEW sticks to one camera angle sometimes too much and messes it up. WWE has really gone the other direction.
Well, especially with these taped episodes.
Oh my God, dude. They use more camera... You got more camera cuts for like a stinger splash in the corner than you have to get Liam Neeson over a fence and taken. I mean,
well, one thing that AEW doesn't do with camera cuts is they don't cut to the announcers during the match.
Which I like. I don't like.
There's no reason to see him, even if it's a guest announcer. There's no reason to see him unless there's some kind of physicality about to happen in that area. That is a good move on their part. As a general rule with wrestling, you know what? They shoot more like Nitro used to shoot the wrestling part. Mm-hmm. And I see that. I'm in the minority in that I always felt like Nitro filmed the wrestling part a little better than
I agree with that.
WWE did. They just had so much nonsense it didn't matter that's how they were doing it better. They stuck to... I guess they are a little closer and stick to 2 or 3 camera angles. Mm-hmm. Rather than...
Well, my eye doesn't have to switch up its focus. Like, when you get me 17 camera angles in about
I'm just sitting here blinking,
30 seconds, I'm truly trying to figure out what's going on as it switches, you know?
Yes. Okay, we get... I don't know where in here the Britt Baker following through her office space is, so I'll just go ahead and address that now.
Yes.
Did you love that?
I totally... I don't care.
Why? Again, why? Why? I would have rather gone to Wardlow's house and watch him eat raw meat or something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or,
if you're going to do it, it should have been funny or something.
Right.
You should have had Tony Schiavone in there getting his teeth
And I like that girl used to be in kind of a carny act on TNA wrestling. The girl who was the makeup artist.
Yes.
And she's an okay wrestler. So I'm interested that she's in the company.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't mind the whole almost The Office, the TV show The Office, where
camera.
The camera, she doesn't know they're filming me right now, so I'll tell you what I really think, and then she has to go back and redo it, just like they would in The Office. I didn't mind that at all. It just, I don't understand why we're getting Britt so heavy all the time. I feel like I've said before, absence can make the heart grow fonder, and I would really like to be fonder of Britt Baker.
I would too, because I do like some of her heel work, but it's just too much in a
Right, but if she is this dastardly heel, why are we trying to make her funny all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You know, she did the thing with Tony, and it worked, and now it's turned into a shtick between them two, and it's not as mean.
I want it to be mean,
really. You know what I mean?
I want her to make him cry.
Right, because Tony deserves to cry.
He deserves it.
Speaking of Wardlow, we're getting to a Wardlow match, and this is a Wardlow match, much like every other Wardlow match. I did not bother to write down his opponent's name. I don't think we will. Jobber. And he does the spinning helicopter throw to endanger the man before he lands.
Yes.
It's tough stuff. Now, you said you compared him a little bit to somebody off air. What was that again? Ryback?
Ryback. He. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying, but so far the presentation has reminded me a lot of Ryback.
I get that. I feel safe with Wardlow because okay, if we're gonna talk about Ryback just for a second. Presentation on Ryback was just, he's not a good wrestler.
No, he's not.
And nobody took that part out of his hands.
No.
And so Wardlow, he comes in a suit. He looks sharp. He's with MJF. I feel 100% like they're going to take care of this character.
I hope so.
Until he's comfortable enough to be speaking and doing things like that.
Because he doesn't have to do that, and he can be great. If they don't ever put a mic in front of him, I am fine with that. MJF should talk for him, and he should just murder people.
And I could see a scenario where he helps MJF get a title. I could see a scenario further down the road, if they want to keep them together, where he wins the world title, and MJF is just going around being snotty about his employee who's the world champion. Mm-hmm. And that would be you don't see that in wrestling. Yeah. It would be a fun it would be a fun road to go down. Yeah,
and you've always got the Batista Triple H moment, the flip moment when you want it.
You can get that if you want it. Right.
And you've always got that in your back pocket if you get him to a point you think this guy maybe he is main event level. Maybe I don't know. I've never seen him work enough yet. But
I think he could main event with MJF as his manager.
Oh, definitely.
Quickly. And then maybe do it on his own as well. And then we're going to move to the Best Friends versus Kip and Jimmy Havoc. Lot going on. What did you think about this?
I thought this was a fun little train wreck.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't...
Trent took some rough spots in this match. Trent is a talented, tough kid.
Yes.
And I don't think he's a kid. He's the same age as... He came through developmental with the Rollins group, right? Rollins and Dean. So him and Dean around about him. Dude, do not get mad at me, AEW fans. Him and Jon Moxley around about the same age, I think.
Yes.
I was not trying to act like he did not get to change his name because he wanted to, because he left that evil group of people at the Death Star. So don't get upset about that. I do call him John. I just had been referring to developmental. I apologize. Taylor spikes Havoc into a pile of chairs.
That looked vicious.
Penelope is the worst manager ever.
No, she did not help her team.
She actually did combo moves on Kip, missing Cassidy completely.
Orange Cassidy.
Why does she cost them the match every time?
When she's the best thing out there some of the time?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
again, why? Yeah.
It's just too much. It's too much. We have this great matchup, and these guys are killing each other. Why can't one of them decide the fates?
Yes.
Why can't Taylor be the hero today, or Trent be the hero today, or Kip kick his partner upside the head on accident? Why do we have to have her cost him the match every week?
Orange Cassidy saved him though.
Again, sometimes less is more. Orange is really good at less, even when he's trying to do more.
He admits that though. He's kind of cool with it.
Well, that's the part.
Yeah, that's it.
And he's in. And you grow to the first week it's like this is nonsense. Third week it's like, well, I think I'm sort of getting it. And by the time you get to week 6 or 7, it's okay.
Yeah,
they're not even really utilizing him as a wrestler, which I think is to come. They've only had him in a few matches.
Yeah.
So it really does make sense for him to just kind of what's the word?
Schluff.
Sludge around.
Okay.
And kind of do things. You know what I mean? Nice and slow, and then when it's time to do something, he's there.
Yeah. It makes him look faster when he explodes too.
Absolutely. Shawn Spears beats up nobody really badly. Then we get Brody Lee against
diminutive man.
What's his name again? A little bit.
Snickers. Marco Stunt is his real name.
Okay, that's right. Brody Lee just
demolishes it. Well,
right.
What else were you expecting to happen?
But now here we are. Okay, we're going into the main event of the evening. Cody, Wardlow, best friends, Shawn, Brody,
man.
A backstage segment with Britt.
Uh-huh.
We had the thing where MJF explained how his thumb injury he suffered through it. So that's 7 segments we've had.
Uh-huh.
2 of them were matches that were good.
Yes.
3 squashes and 2 segments that were nothing.
Yes.
And I enjoyed the show.
Uh-huh.
And I get that you don't have a whole lot of wrestlers, but then you offset that by having a whole lot of wrestlers standing outside of the ring and one of them on commentary.
Yes.
Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing anything, sir. I think you're making valid points there.
Okay. Just as long as I'm not...
See, this is where I'm a firm believer in intellectual consistency. If you hold one side accountable for it, you gotta look at the other side too, and you gotta look at their product too. You don't just go in there and go, all right, just because I like you better than I like Vince. You know, if that's the same, hey man, I would complain about that if I saw it on WWE programming.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not alone in this.
Nope.
And I love Shawn Spears as a wrestler. I love Brody as a wrestler. I'm enjoying Wardlow's. Let me rephrase that. I like where I think Wardlow gets to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to see them doing the same. We do actually the episode we did yesterday about WWE. It's the Sheamus thing. I've seen Sheamus do this I'm beating people up thing 3 or 4 different times. We haven't seen that in this company, but we're getting the same squash match on 3 or 4 times a night.
And the Brody Lee one, at least, there was a purpose behind him squashing Marco Stunt because they've been setting him up. I think they're going to try to turn him to the Dark Order. That one at least had a point.
Right.
A little bit of a point. But they didn't really advance it too much because they didn't tell. It was still pretty, you know.
Right. Now let's move on to something that was fun. Lance Archer versus Dustin Rhodes.
Love Lance Archer.
35 minutes or so. Dustin gets beat up a lot. He does. We think he bladed himself. Maybe he didn't.
Does the day end in why?
It looked as if.
I've seen him blade himself at a salad bar.
From what I understand, he has bladed himself waking up in the morning.
Yes. It's like, hey, honey, I'm awake. No. Oh, God!
No, I meant to get coffee.
Yes. I just cut my forehead open.
I got mixed up. Okay. Then he gets pummeled for 30 minutes. He has a couple of good things. It's a
slobber knocker.
Yes, and they are plotting, but in a good way, and everything is physical that they do. And Dustin throws great punches, and Dustin sells well, and Archer is the
unplacable monster, dude. The horror villain.
Jericho is selling it like $1 million.
And he does some, dude. And again, he does some really smart stuff. He doesn't get in a hurry in the ring.
No.
And when you see him move, you realize that dude can move as fast as he needs to. This is an active choice he is making over and over and over again I'm going to step slowly, methodically. I'm going to put a grin on my face. I'm going to look around a little bit, you know.
but that's because I know where this is going.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can do to stop
exactly
how this ends. Now, Cody, to his credit, comes out to make sure they don't save his brother by throwing in the white towel.
Yeah, because he wanted to make sure this brother got brain damage.
Now, what really happened, like, in theory, what the script was, I guess, is they were going to throw in the white towel.
QT Marshall was.
And Brandy first, and then QT second, and then Cody takes a hold of the towel like he's going to throw it in, and I guess Dustin told him, no, let me go out. They had the Apollo Creed moment.
Yeah.
Don't stop this fight.
Don't stop this fight.
Of course.
And then you see him, and there's a cool visual, and you brought this up. All of a sudden, Lance Archer grabs him and snatches him back into the ring, and his hands are like reached out as it gets. It's clever. It's well done.
Yes. And then he does the claw, which is not a great move, but in this scenario, it was really good because he's got him on the ground so he can push his head further down, because you've always said that the problem with the claw is if you want to break it, you just take a step backwards.
Yeah.
Well, if you land on the ground, you can't.
Nope.
And so then he's picking his head up, just banging his head on the ground to finish the match. And that's well done.
It looked vicious.
And I like the claw on the ground.
I liked it. It's a viable move at that point.
And you're not really slamming his head into the ground. It just looks like it. So that's a way you could.
And he's got his hand under there. I think he had his backhand under there too.
Yeah, that's a variance of that move that can give you that.
You got to be careful with. You got to go a little slower. Because you don't want to sling the brain around in the head too much.
Yeah, but let's go back to the squash. I enjoyed the episode. I complained about it, but I enjoyed it.
Well, the first match was great. Last match was great.
Yeah, and then stuff happened in the middle.
Yeah,
but
a couple of good things.
Now we talked about this though, about how the other day we talked about this, because sometimes I have an issue when I watch AEW programming where Cody will be in there with a jobber and he'll let the guy hang around. Or Omega will be in there with a jobber and he'll let the guy hang around.
Yeah.
Now here I am being the opposite, where I'm complaining about a big man not letting the other guy hang around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And yet I complain about it when Omega. Then you said the other day that sometimes with WWE programming, that, and I don't mean for this to be kind of but whatever, we're down that road already, so let's go. That they don't do a good job of giving you the technical wrestler wins quickly.
Let me give you the notable exceptions that have been around recently. The exception that proves the rule. Aleister Black has had at least 2 matches
where it was just a kick.
He just caught him single time, caught the dude coming across with the black mass. And that's the technical guy squash match, knockout.
Right.
I don't...
Flash punch.
Yeah, I'm faster, I'm stronger, I'm more technically savvy than you. Doesn't matter, Kenny Omega comes out, hits you with a V-trigger, one-winged angel, it's over.
Right. Right.
That should be it. Cody Rhodes, man, maybe spin you around, catch you with the beautiful disaster. I don't like his beautiful disaster kick because he ripped it off from John Morrison, who was doing that same kick at the same time, and John Morrison's looks. And he noticed, I haven't seen him do it in a while either. But
that's because he knows it's Cody's move now.
Oh my God, but his is so much better.
No.
Yes, it is.
It's Cody's move.
Cody looks so awkward when he kicks. It's even more awkward than most of his other things.
Man. Okay, going back to what I was saying though. It seems like it's an easy decision. I want to build this person as a monster. I look at him, he's 6'4", he's 6'3", he's 6'5".
Yes.
Common sense, the first 5 matches he's going to have are going to be squashes.
Mm-hmm.
This person right here is a technically sound wrestler. Common sense is he's going to go out here and roll around with this guy for a little while and eventually go over.
Yeah.
I wonder why nobody ever thinks to go the other route and say, I'm going to stick this kid out there that's a pro wrestler, that's an amateur wrestler, and he's going to walk out there and he's going to, or I'm going to sell this guy as a jiu-jitsu guy, and you're going to give him a limb and he's going to snap it right out the chute.
Right out the chute. Go catch you slipping in like a Kimura or something like that.
Right. Why don't we? I wonder why we don't get that.
Because I don't think that the people who write this stuff understand the danger of those kinds of moves as much. They don't get how quickly, especially in the beginning of a match. You watch UFC. You'll see guys get caught with flying arm bars, in the beginning of matches, you'll see guys get caught with, weird chokes in matches right off the bat because they're not paying attention and they're not sweaty yet, and they'll get caught with something slick.
Well, two things about not being sweaty. One, as you alluded to before, it's easier to slip out when you're sweaty.
Yes.
If somebody's got you in a hold.
Yes.
Two, if you see it like a lot, like you'll see a boxer sometimes, which is not involving a hold. If he comes out and he's dry, they'll be worried about him because the first couple of rounds because he wasn't. You get into a flow when you're doing something.
Yes.
Basketball game, guys don't tend to come out and hit their first couple of shots. And if they do, they're going to have a really good night. It's getting up and down the court and getting into the rhythm of the game.
Get your body in the motion.
In combat sports, there is a danger prior to that rhythm of the game. You know what I mean? And once you get into a rhythm, when you see a punch coming, and I'm not one who's been hit a lot, but I'm guessing when you see a punch, from what I've watched over the years, when you see a punch coming, you learn to kind of move your head enough that it doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? It would hurt a mortal, but a boxer's different.
And you learn the hardest trick in the world is you got to stay loose. You got to stay relaxed when you eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be, lots of times you got to be stepping in. And that kind of stuff, you have to do it, and you have to do it a lot until it gets to be.
Do you remember the Evander Holyfield career pretty well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When he fought, he went on that run where he was fighting Foreman, Bowe.
Yes.
And that little run of matches, you could see those guys had gotten to a point, once they got to where they were fighting each other in round 15, 16, 17, once they got to the second fight, they're only moving their head a quarter of an inch as the punch is coming.
Yes.
Because they know, well, that's going to hit me on the side. And now, don't get me wrong, there may be brain damage involved.
Yes.
By doing that. I'm not advocating
for
this.
that maneuver.
Yeah. But they would it would take just enough impact off of it that they would be able to fire right back with their own.
It's subtle mastery of things that you don't get unless you've done that stuff for.
Yeah, and those fights were high level.
And Holyfield's boxing is on a whole nother level than that
Anybody.
guy. You got to see the real puncher versus boxer.
Right, 190-pound man fighting 240.
And that's what we don't see you don't see the Evander Holyfield character get to go out there and just technically tear Wardlow or some big man apart. Like Braun Strowman walks out there and just gets, one of my favorite, Maurice Smith, Bob Sapp.
Mm-hmm.
Maurice Smith is Bob Sapp is
monster.
A monster.
Right.
Used to fight what's Warren Sapp is Warren Sapp's brother, and he's
I didn't know that.
They're brothers,
okay.
Or they're relative,
something. Okay,
yeah. But you look at him, you can see he's big as him or bigger.
I think he's bigger than Warren Sapp.
Yeah,
Warren's a little wider because he was a nose guard, but yeah.
Yeah, and then Maurice Smith fights him and just tears him apart, dude. I mean, because he's so much better than him. Technically,
at everything except size.
It's everything except size and strength.
And sometimes that matters.
Yeah, not a lot of times. Hey, strength and power matter a lot. Don't let anybody fool you.
Correct.
But
skill can be an equalizer.
It can be if you're that much better.
Right. Okay, we're going to move on and talk about TNA. Justin watched a little bit of it over here today, and then I'll watch it. We're going to go through TNA is Impact Wrestling. They're the same thing.
Moose.
At one time it was TNA Total.
Nonstop action.
And then somebody pointed out to the owners that a parent might think that TNA meant something else. And they changed it to Impact to match the name of the Impact Zone where they filmed these things. Rebellion Night 2, Josh Matthews and Madison Rayne on commentary. Suicide, Chris Bay, Raji, and Trey wrestled first, and Bay winds up going over. This was as great as any of these type of matches are. That's anytime you put a series of X Division wrestlers in a match together, they're free flowing and fighting, and it wasn't. There was a couple of spots that I thought were a little overdone, but that's also what you get with these things too. And so Tessa winds up, after Chris Bay goes over, we go to Tessa's house in Mexico where she lives with her fiance, and she just talks about can't wait to defend her title, that kind of thing. But Michael Elgin is insisting that he will be crowned the champion at the end of the night because there was scheduled to be a heavyweight championship fight. And if they don't show up, the bell will ring, there will be a 10 count, and I will be your world heavyweight champion.
You can't win a championship belt on a count out.
Michael Elgin has decided that does not matter, and he is marching to the ring to get his belt at the end of the evening.
Does that involve marching out there in the ugliest robe I've ever seen?
It will, exactly.
Okay, all right.
But to Elgin's credit, he has removed the dumbbell off the front of his uniform, which I always thought was a bit ironic
Yes.
in its own way.
Speaking of human beings that resemble thumbs.
Cousin Diener versus Joseph P. Ryan. Joseph P. Ryan, who has put his tallywhacker away for the time being and is fighting as a clean-cut wrestler, winds up winning with a roll-up while holding the ropes, which is a clean win in pro wrestling nowadays.
Yes, it is.
Which is great. Anyway, it was fine. The Diener that's the bigger Diener, Jake, is he's a very athletic big man. So this was pretty good. Rosemary and Valkyrie in a Full Metal Mayhem. First, it starts with a promo where she tries to get Taya Valkyrie to show up from Taya's house, and Taya is not looking to do a Full Metal Mayhem match today. She's in sweatpants, so that's not happening. Rosemary and Havoc have a match, and this was great. And there were a couple of original spots in there. There's a hard hat.
Yeah, he goes. Havoc goes to hit her with the trash can, and she's been hiding the hard hat, and she slips it on right at the last second, and totally hurts her hands apparently when she hits the thing with.
Yeah, and then she grabs the trash can to retaliate. Bang.
Yeah, bang.
And then you can see how good these two are, especially at this style of match, because they don't take. You'll see very good pro wrestlers have this style of mayhem or hardcore or whatever you want to call it match, a Tommy Dreamer match, and we wind up getting 2 minutes to set up a 10-second spot.
Yeah, a chair.
Right. Whereas we saw Rosemary go out here and she sets the chair up in
the corner,
a tenth of a second.
Yeah, she has it perfect in there.
Right. Like that. She didn't have to fight with it. She didn't knock it down twice.
Instead of putting it outside the corner, like everybody else tries to jam it in between the ropes outside the corner, she put it inside the corner buckle under there. It only had 2 spots to hold it so it could come out. Like you pointed out, it got plenty of give. It popped right out of the way. She didn't hurt her head.
It went clank when she hit it.
Yeah, it looked great because it bounced off that metal piece at the back.
Right. In about 22 seconds, 25 seconds, she sets up where the lead pipe that's gimmicked is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Both chairs.
Yes.
And the chair in the corner. So now we can just wrestle to the end till you tell me to go home.
Uh-huh.
And then when she says go home, she hits her with the lead pipe, which isn't really lead.
I don't care. I've pointed this out. I've decided that I much like gimmick objects more than I like real objects not being used as real objects should be used. Like sledgehammers with your hand held over the hammer part.
Right.
Give me a gimmick hammer and Thor somebody upside the head with it, and I'm much happier.
Right. And so she swings it like a baseball bat and hits Havoc upside the head with a lead pipe, and she goes down like she should.
Yes, like if you got hit upside the head with a lead pipe.
Right. And 1, 2, 3, it's over. And it was well done. And like you said, like you have an issue, I think, with Hunter because Triple H will.
I have an issue with that. I have an issue with barbed wire bats where they hold their hand over the end of it. I have an issue with I'd rather have the gimmick bat and you waylay somebody with it than have the holding your hand. I'll do the hold the hand over it move, where and then hit them with it looks stupid. It's like, why would you bring this out
and put your own knuckles in jeopardy
and then hit them? It doesn't. You could go with the quarter roll in your hand spot, which is just the same spot pretty much, and then it looks slicker. You don't, and then there's a reason I'm hitting you with my hand.
Greatest spot like that. You know what the greatest spot like that is?
What?
When is it Tito Santana has Macho up for a suplex?
Oh yes.
And Macho pulls while he's in the air, pulls the roll of dimes out. It's not really a roll of dimes. It's like some form of it's that shape.
Yes.
Something he can grab a hold to.
Yeah.
Not quite brass knuckles because there's nothing on the other side.
Yeah.
Pulls that out of his pants.
Loaded fist.
Spanks Tito in the head with it while he's vertical. Falls down on top of him. 1, 2, 3. Win. Intercontinental champ.
Yeah, dude. That's well planned.
Yeah.
And it's believable that I could get I could get away with it in the match,
right.
And B, it actually hurts. I have sold hurting him without hurting him, and I've sold while I'm using my hand and I'm not, if I pull out a brick, it doesn't make any sense for me to do anything other than smack you upside the head with a brick. That's the play. If I pull out a bat, my move is going to be to hit your head like a T-ball.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you do anything else from that, it makes me think it
really
ruins my reality.
Right.
I'm just saying don't bring the bat out if you're not going to use it.
Right. Or bring a wiffle ball bat.
Paint it black.
Yeah.
And hit somebody with it.
Yeah. Right. And utilize those camera angles.
Yes. I don't use a little sound work. I don't care.
Somebody named Nevaeh was ringside. We don't know who she is yet. They'll get to that later. Willie Mack does a promo backstage. It gets kind of sort of interrupted by Johnny Swinger.
Talks himself into a match.
Who said...
Hey, remember when
Swinger
Willie Mack
interrupts Willie Mack being congratulated into the X Division Championship club by Rich Swann and says, I've been in clubs, and I don't know what he was implying was the underground training club.
I don't want to know what this is
Vern
about.
Gagne had me by the
yeah.
and Willie Mack's eyes got so big. Like, are we fixing to learn something about Vern Gagne that nobody ever knew or wanted to
know? I think they just let that dude walk up and say stuff sometimes. And
you know what's the best too about him is he backs away. Like he slides in and he says something and then he kind of does because he's built. You know what I mean? Like. The era he's from included steroids, and he didn't quit that either.
No.
But then when he gets done saying what he's saying, he has a ha, and then he backs out of the camera picture like that's some kind of smooth thing. And the only reason why it is smooth is because it's not.
Yes.
And I think the TS on his shirts, I think those are his shirts, the TS, but they're absolutely a rip from Twisted Sister.
Yes.
Which makes it so much better.
The dude.
Because we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it.
He's so meta.
We're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Then we're going to move into... We are going to get a match between Swinger and Mack for the title, and it will not be a great match, but it will lead to some fun. Okay,
yes.
So then we get a flashback segment where Rich Swann and Sammy, Evil Sammy Callahan are fighting, and Sammy goes for the barbed wire bat. Rich Swann gets the barbed wire bat out of his hand and puts it on Sammy's forehead, and Sammy's bleeding, and it's that Sammy winds up tapping. Rich gets his first X Division title.
See,
a lot of times with these, go ahead.
Again, my point is being made. Because if I got a bat with barbed wire on it and I've got you in a vulnerable position, like on the ground, why don't I just pound your head like a 10 spike and then the match is over?
That'd be illegal.
It's a barbed wire match. There's nothing illegal in this match. And then you've allowed me, it's like...
So it's like a TNT championship match.
Yes. Everything's illegal.
Okay. Well, he taps. But usually these flashback segments, they think about where they place them. And placing this one with Rich Swann getting his first X Division title while Rich Swann just was in a segment standing next to Willie Mack leads me to believe at some point that's where we're going.
Oh, yeah.
Which is cool.
You don't think Johnny Swinger's going to take the belt off of him?
I do not. I do not. Although a title run... Here's if you're gonna have, if Arquette can win the WCW title,
this happened, yes.
I don't have a problem with somehow there being this crazy 8-man match
where Johnny Swinger walks out as X Division champion,
where he gets knocked cold and falls on top of whoever the world champ.
Yes,
fall on top of. If you want to take the belt off of Tessa and not have her have to get beat by a guy. Yes. Having her laying there and him get knocked out on top of her and then let somebody else take the belt off, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And I would love just to give him 10 minutes of him holding a world championship belt, being a fool. I'll take it all day, every day.
He gets it the next night, whatever the next show is, and by the end of the show, he says the belt's off of him. But
Or you could, I don't care. You can have that match at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And take it off of him at the end. I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I just want that little bit of time where he's talking about his Rizats and his pizzills. You know what I mean? Okay. Michael Elgin seems to think that he is now going to be anointed champion without a match. He is threatening the referee, which I guess that's how that works.
that's how it works. He's threatening to make him wear this robe that makes him look like.
We watched. Jared came over last weekend, and Jared's sick, so get better, Jared. But he's not sick. He's got like a sinus infection, so Jared's okay, guys. And we watched Flash the movie, and he was like, "This rules," because you know how cartoony it is.
Yes.
It literally looks like we took little like we built the city on our table.
Yes.
And we're it's that bad.
Oh, it's
the
bad.
special effects, but it's also so hokey. It's okay.
Oh, I don't care. Yeah,
Queen does the soundtrack. So
you're talking about Flash Gordon.
yes, Flash
Not-
Gordon.
Yes,
Yes.
not the Flash.
No, absolutely, Flash Gordon. Flash. Yeah.
Dude, if
He was
you've
saving
never
every one
heard
of
that
us.
song, go stop whatever you're doing.
Go to Spotify.
Go to Spotify. The Flash Gordon theme from with Queen. The whole
Right.
soundtrack. Queen does the soundtrack to 2 different movies that I know of, and maybe more. I know Flash Gordon and Highlander, and I tell you, they both of those situations take movies that probably should not be in anybody's, I don't know, movie list and make them worth watching. And I love both of those movies.
I love both those movies, and the fight, the bad laser effects. Would be so bad if Brian May wasn't killing it over the top of those with his guitar.
Yes!
Oh my God. Okay, so we'll move on. At this point, Moose comes out, and things. You think this isn't going to get weirder?
Poor costuming.
Moose comes out dressed in a somewhat knockoff of the Ultimate Warrior outfit, and it really starts to get weird here because now what we've had is Moose beating up old TNA champions and old TNA wrestlers for about a month.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he has gone into the vault or wherever they store old stuff,
The closet.
the closet, and they have found
Joey Ryan's Johnny Swinger's changing room, because he doesn't get to change with anybody else anymore after several incidents, probably. You know?
or Scott Gamore's office.
Yes.
It could have just been sitting there, and him go, and Moose just said, "Hey, I think I'm going to wear that belt." And Scott was like, "Well, you can't wear that belt because he's a. Why can't I wear that belt again?
Yeah.
I'm Moose, and you're little."
Yes.
And he goes, "Wear the belt."
Wear the belt. The belt's yours, man.
Yeah. And so Moose walks out with a TNA championship belt,
Yes.
a defunct name. There is no TNA wrestling,
No.
but here we have
That's
Moose.
like me bringing out the WWF title.
Elgin is going to be anointed champion without a competitor, and Moose is defending a belt that does not exist.
Jeez.
Therefore, they should fight each other.
Yes.
And
Whoever wins becomes the mythical champion.
Hernandez, who I believe is a guest in the company and has just been kind of doing things, now comes out because he's going to defend the honor of said TNA company. And we get a match, and they fight for 30 minutes, and it was fine, and it was fun, and Moose winds up winning, and so Moose is still your fictional TNA World Heavyweight Champion.
I mean, possession's 9/10 the law. I mean, if you can't take the belt off of him, he's the champ, I think.
I do think that is exactly the premise of how we came up with wrestling belts in general.
Yes.
You take your belt to the low. I didn't think about this one time, but a guy said, well, wrestling started, I think Cornette said it. Well, wrestling started where the traveling wrestling company would go to a town, and the guy who was the champ, you would have to be able to go to a town and beat up that town's best
Oh, well, yeah, it was like
wrestler.
It was like William Regal used to really do. Steven Regal, whatever,
Yeah.
used to really do that. He was what they call a hooker. That's the term for it. It's not an American term.
Okay.
That's a British term. Doesn't mean what you think it means. That was the guy who would go, everybody can pay $1, and if you can, last 5 minutes or beat the champ in 5 minutes, you get all the money.
Right.
And that would be, so he was good at both making it look like you could win and then beating you whenever he felt like it.
Right, and that was the trick to it, though. The thing that Cornette had pointed out was the trick to it was you had to be able to make it look like you could lose to the town tough guy.
Yes.
And yet still be able to beat him in the end, and you couldn't put yourself in too much of harm's way, because if you're fighting a fairly big guy, as we all know, big guy, bare hand, he can hit you, knock you out.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to prevent that and be able to carry him with you for 2 minutes, but not 5, because 5 he gets all the money and you don't get to take any with you.
Yeah.
You know where I know where Cornette said that too. He's on these Dark Side of the Ring shows that are on, and he's the main historian on these shows.
I would say probably there's not many people that know much more about the business than Jim Cornette.
Him or Meltzer.
Him
or, well, I mean, if you're talking about,
in the modern age, yes, Meltzer.
Well, and it's two different outlook.
Yes.
One guy has always been a little bit on the outside, but covered wrestling. The whole time. I'm not a Meltzer guy, but he's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
And if you can divide by what you believe his biases is, what's coming from Meltzer's fairly true.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if we're talking about moments in time specifically.
Yes.
Cornette, on the other hand, has been in the middle of wrestling, but has been studying it like a historian his entire life.
Yes.
While also, I don't know if Cornette would know anything about anything other than wrestling.
I don't think so. I think that's.
I don't know how many hours there are in a day, but that guy, he seems like okay. So the segment they're doing last week was the one where the guy slaps the 2020 reporter in the ear.
John Stossel got slapped
twice, okay, and winds up being somewhat deaf out of one ear until he gets a check. According to him, now y'all can sit here. You can pick on me if you want about this, but according to John Stossel, he said that he went to see the WWE reporters, whom said, "We think that part of your problem is you're having a phantom pain due to the fact that you haven't got paid yet." And he said, "F you, that's BS." But he said, of course, it did go away fairly soon after I got my check, so maybe there was something to that.
Yeah.
But the point was that the guy who slaps him upside the head, his name escapes me right now. That guy was trained and was told to believe that wrestling would always, you have to protect that it's real.
Protect the secret, Yeah,
absolutely. So we stopped for a second and looked up his name. Dr. D. David Schultz was that guy. And he was actually in a program, he was with Hogan in an organization. Hogan brings him along. This mess happens.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince is going cartoon now. And he's bringing in people from outside of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. T would be the famous one to come next.
Yeah, which, again, that resulted in another instance where if you watch Law & Order SVU, go back and look when Munch used to have a TV show in New York, and Hulk Hogan chokes him out on live television.
That's on this episode of The Dark.
Is it?
Yes. And also, nothing happens there, because Munch didn't make a big deal out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they paid him off, whatever, real quickly. But later, they're in LA or something, and Mr. T is going to sit ringside while they're getting ready to go to Mania, and he's going to be the tag team partner there. And Schultz, supposedly, according to Schultz, he got into it. He was discussing things with Mr. T backstage, and Strongbow comes up, who was the booker of the match that Hogan was in, and says, "You need to leave T alone if you can. I'm supposed to fire you." And supposedly then there's something that happens. He basically slaps Mr. T upside the head ringside, and that's when they handcuff him and take him out of there, and he's not working there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what they were implying on this episode, and you got to remember, these episodes are all done by Chris Jericho's like the executive producer or something of this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all kind of twisted a little, not in a.
It's always everybody's got an agenda.
The storyteller is the one who tells the story.
Yes.
So he gets to lean it wherever he wants, right? And this thing is basically Vince has a fear of people like Schultz being in the locker room, because then he can't have your Mr. T come in and wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have because your wrestler could take liberties with somebody who isn't a pro wrestler and really good at this stuff, right? You can't. It won't get to evolve into what he wants it to evolve into
Yeah.
if you have this guy. Another problem he's having, though, is he's having to pay taxes to all these local sporting commissions. He has to pay, if he wants to go to New York, he's got to pay the boxing commission up there. If he wants to go to Maryland, he's got to pay that commission. So
It's technically a sport.
so he comes up with the term sports entertainment, and he says, we're Broadway. Broadway doesn't have to pay that tax to that sporting.
You know what? I had actually never thought about that in my whole time watching wrestling, and that's actually brilliant. I totally understand why he did that, and that makes perfect sense to me.
I had always assumed it was a steroid controversy.
Mm-hmm.
That he wanted the bookies to not be able to come after him for it not being a legitimate
Yes.
sporting thing. But it turned out, which would have been money as well, and I think he basically got to address both those birds in the tree.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Because when
Who
they
the
go
hell
after
was
baseball,
betting on pro wrestling?
dude, people still bet on pro wrestling.
That's
Did
the
you know that?
dumbest thing I've ever
They know
heard.
it's fake, and they literally still bet on pro wrestling.
You could lose your bet because Vince McMahon tears up a script, dude.
Of course you could. You know what's even better? This is off topic, and then I'm going to wrap this thing up. You know what was the most... Okay. What do you think was bet on the most in the last 5 weeks?
Jeez, there's no sports.
The NFL draft. I got a buddy who had the Alabama wide receiver going first and like 4 receivers going in the first 2 rounds. Whether or not, you could bet whether or not a quarterback went before a receiver. You could bet whether or not, dude, that works, bro. Because there's nothing to bet on. You have all these gamblers in the world.
Dude, what's the old joke? They bet on, which bird flies off a pole first.
2 mules fighting over turnip.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, dude. They will bet.
If you want to gamble, you're gonna gamble.
Yeah, that's dumb gambling though, because it's not like that's just, again, there's no.
Well, what you're doing is instead of like predicting which team is better, what you're doing is you're guessing on a character arc,
Yeah.
which is interesting, I guess. Well, we do it. We do the same thing. We
Yeah,
write up a sheet.
but
We
I
have
would
our
never
little.
put money on it because that's stupid.
Right. What we do sometimes with pay-per-views is, and I've done it for years. I created this to force my wife and my daughter to watch it with me.
Yes.
Because I would say, okay, I will give you something if you win the most matches, right? And then we would bet on every match, and that turned into when the Go Home Eat crew started coming over to the house, we would do the same thing with the pay-per-views, and then Jared was nice enough to bring a championship belt, and then the winner of the matches gets a championship belt to hold it, which it just stays at my house.
Yes.
Because Ray wins it mostly.
Most of the time. Because he's smarter than us.
He understands character arcs better than
us. Yeah.
better than the creative writing major.
Yeah. Yeah. The film.
Yeah, whatever.
Come
Whatever.
on.
I let my emotions get the best of me all the time. I don't know. Okay, 4. Go Home Heat for Justin, for KP. This has been a Go Home Heat production, a wrestling podcast, copyright 2020. Thank you so much, and go home.